No, we're not, I said. You never see a Chinese person in the movies or in a play or in a book. No one Chinese is important. There are Chinese movie stars, Melody said, and the woman that does the news is Chinese. Not a lot, though, I said, and there are none in books. Whenever we do a school play, it's always from books, and none of the characters are Chinese. We did Cinderella, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland. Nobody in books is Chinese. There must be, Melody said. Just because the school hasn't done a play about a Chinese person doesn't mean there aren't any. I doubt it, I said. I bet there aren't any. Melody and I went to the library and asked for a Chinese book. We looked at the book, The Five Chinese Brothers. See, Melody said, Chinese people. Those aren't real Chinese people, though, I said. Your brother doesn't have a ponytail. It's not supposed to be real, Melody said. Who can swallow the ocean like they do in the book? But I wanted a real Chinese person book, I complained. One with people like us, Chinese Americans. You're just being picky, Melody said. Go write your own then. Okay, I said suddenly, remember the book contest? I will. Chapter 12, or 17. A real Chinese person book. My Dog Doodle. Making a book was a lot harder than saying I would make one. When I told Miss McCurdy that I wanted to make a book with a Chinese American person in it, she was very excited. That's a wonderful idea, she told me. Why don't you write about yourself? You're a Chinese American, and if you write your own experiences, your book is sure to be very unique. Ms. McCurdy said over and over again that she wanted us to make books with unique and original ideas. She always tried to make us write stories from our own lives. Write what you know, she kept telling us, but most of us didn't seem to know much because we weren't doing very original ideas. Charlotte wrote a story that sounded a lot like Cinderella, except instead of two stepsisters, there was only one. Becky's story was a lot like the unicorn movie we watched. Flowerland by Melody Ling, Melody's book. Melody was doing an original idea, though. Her book was about flowers that talked to each other. She got the idea from our science fair project. She said since she'd learned plants had tastes like people, she'd write a story about them talking like people too. But even with an original idea, I still didn't know what to write about. I knew I wanted it to be about a Chinese person, and Ms. McCurdy wanted me to write about my life, but I couldn't think of a part of my life to write about. There was just nothing exciting in my life. Maybe that was why there were no real Chinese people in books. We all had boring lives. I watched the rest of the class write their stories. I drew little pictures of dogs reading books. My mind was like an empty paper balloon. Ms. McCurdy stopped by my desk. Writer's block, she asked me. What's writer's block, I asked. It's when a writer can't think of what to write about, when you can't think of any words to write, she told me. I nodded my head hard. I definitely was having writer's block. What's the cure for it, I asked. You just have to relax, not try so hard, Ms. McCurdy said, and wait. Well, that was disappointing. Isn't there something I could do to make it disappear sooner, I asked her. Don't worry, Ms. McCurdy told me. You'll find an idea. It will come to you. But I worried. Finding a book idea was like finding myself, and I wasn't having much luck with either. Chapter 18, The School Play, Singing Tryouts. At the same time as the book project, we were also working on The Wizard of Oz. There were rehearsals every week. Since I was only a munchkin, I thought rehearsals were pretty boring. I should have signed up for the orchestra like you, I told Melody. Who ever heard of a Chinese munchkin? That's not why I signed up for the orchestra, Melody said. Besides, no one will see you, probably. That's true, I said, thinking about all the kids that were munchkins on stage. All we did was stand around and sing songs. But one day, Ms. Malone said, right before the song, we need a munchkin to give Dorothy a thank you gift for killing the Wicked Witch. Grace, we'll have you do that. Me? But then everyone would see me. What if I handed Dorothy the gift and everyone in the audience whispered to each other, a Chinese munchkin? There's no such thing as a Chinese munchkin. I tried to say something, but Ms. Malone had hurried on to the Cowardly Lion. That day when I got home from school, Mom asked me what was wrong. Uh-oh, Mom said, you have a grumpy face. What's wrong today? Miss Malone made me the munchkin that gives Dorothy the gift, I said. Isn't that good, Mom asked. Now you have a part that's more special. No, I told her, it's horrible. It's so stupid that she picked me. Why is it stupid? Mom asked. I would think you'd be proud. Now everyone will see me, I said. Before, no one would notice me, but now I'll stick out. People will say, Grace is a munchkin, and then they'll laugh at me. Everyone is going to laugh at me. Mom said. You sound like I did before my first day of school. Did I ever tell you about that? Mom's first day of school. The night before my first day of school, my mother told me that Amma, my grandmother, was going to bring me. Now remember, Amma grew up during a time when women bound their feet to make them smaller. Binding their feet did make them smaller, but oh, how painful it was to walk on them. So because it was so difficult for Amma to walk, it was decided that Amma would walk me to school and wait outside for me all day until it was time to bring me back, so she wouldn't have to make an extra trip. Now, was I grateful for Amma's sacrifice? No. I was embarrassed. What would my classmates think of me when my grandmother walked me to school and sat all day in the schoolyard waiting for me? They would think I was a baby who needed someone nearby all the time. I pleaded and begged for my parents to let me go alone or for someone else to bring me, but they refused. The next day, I dreaded going to school. Usually, I liked walking with Amma. Unlike walking with my mother or father, whose large steps made me hop like a rabbit, Amma always walked slowly and deliberately, picking her steps like the way you choose peaches at the market. But today, I hated walking with Amma. I dragged my feet as if they were stuck to the ground with honey. I hoped that getting late to school, no one would see Amma walking with me. On the way, we met up with another student, a round-faced boy named Zhao Jie, who was walking with his grandmother as well. He scowled at me with fierce anger, and I started to feel that school was going to be a very unhappy and unfriendly place. The bell was ringing when we finally reached the school. So far, my plan was working. I hoped that no one noticed Amma as I left her outside. But my relief was short-lived because as soon as my classmates sat down in their seats, Zhao Jie made a noise like a tea kettle. Look out the window, he laughed and pointed. I was horrified. Was this terrible boy pointing at Amma and laughing at her? I joined my classmates at the window, and then I started laughing too. Outside in the schoolyard sat a whole row of grandmothers. They sat there like a line of birds on a telephone wire, gossiping and sharing tea. Everyone's grandmother was out there. I didn't need to feel embarrassed about Amma waiting for me the whole day, Mom finished, because everyone else's grandma was doing the same thing. But it's not the same with the play, I said. Isn't it though, Mom asked? You're so worried about your part, you aren't seeing that there is nothing to worry about. Maybe, I said, but I did feel better. Chapter 19. The Wizard of Oz, My Gift to Dorothy. On the night of the school play, the sky was as quiet as a feather falling. It was still and quiet without movement from the wind or snow. I couldn't understand it at all. How could it be so calm when the play was about to happen? Backstage, everyone was running around, getting dressed and putting on makeup. Tin cans were being polished, straw was taped on, and green backdrops were whizzing around. Kathy Small, who played Glinda, had gotten her hair permed just for the occasion. I didn't have that much to do. I had already put on my flowered munchkin apron and bonnet. Even though I didn't look like a munchkin, my costume was perfect. Most of the munchkins had used old clothes belonging to their parents or grandparents to make their costumes. But my parents didn't have anything that looked right. So Mom and I went to the store and I picked out a leaf green material with delicate rosebuds scattered on it. It was called calico, which was what the American Pioneer girls wore, and it was exactly right for a munchkin. Me as a munchkin. I also had my gift that I was supposed to hand to Dorothy. It was a shoebox covered with sapphire blue wrapping paper and a big red bow. It was completely empty. I could toss it in the air like a balloon. But that didn't matter because Dorothy never ended up opening it, which I didn't think was right. If I were given a gift from a munchkin, I'd open it right away. Melody and I watched everyone rush around. It was as if there was a hurricane happening around us. This is why I didn't try out to be Dorothy, Melody told me. Too stressful. True, I said, but it's exciting too. When you're one of us, without an important role, it's pretty boring. You've got an important role, Melody said. You're the gift-giving munchkin. Yeah, I'm giving an empty box, I said. Great present. Actually, Danny Dog has the biggest role out of all of us, Melody laughed. Danny Dog was Melody's stuffed animal. He was going to be Toto. Becky had volunteered Scruffy, but Ms. Malone said a real dog would be unreliable. So Melody brought fuzzy, chocolate-colored Danny Dog. Most of the time, Danny Dog was carried in Dorothy's basket, so he didn't really get to do much either, though one of the boys did bark off stage to give him a voice. Melody was dressed in black. Melody was dressed all in black. All the orchestra was dressed in black so they wouldn't be too obvious. Melody wanted to wear black makeup too, but Ms. Malone said it wouldn't be necessary. Grace, Melody, Ms. Malone said, get to your places. The curtains will go up in 10 minutes. Melody waved goodbye as she went to the orchestra pit, which was the area in front of the stage. I joined the other munchkins and thought about the play. First, Emma would be in her blue checkered Dorothy costume, which was made from a tablecloth, talking to Toto, Danny Dog, and then the curtains would open and show Oz. Then the munchkins would come and sing, and then I would give the gift. I knew Mom was right, and probably everyone was too busy thinking about their own parts to wonder why there was a Chinese munchkin, but I was still worried. Would they laugh and whisper? I heard clapping from the audience. It was loud. That meant there were probably a lot of people. I tried to smooth out the wrinkled wrapping paper on my gift. Ms. Malone beckoned us, and all the munchkins filed through the door and went on stage. Never before did the stage feel so big. I was glad there were other munchkins in front and in back of me. Emma looked so much like Dorothy with her braided hair and blue and white dress that I forgot for a second that I was in a play, and I thought I was watching her on TV. The orchestra played, and the munchkins began to sing. As soon as the song was over, it would be time for me. I opened and closed my mouth, but no words came out. I just looked at the space between Dorothy and me. How many steps would it be? 10? 14? Suddenly, one of the munchkins nudged me. Grace, the munchkin hissed, go! It was time. I walked forward, and there was a bright spotlight on me. I tried to look into the audience, but I couldn't see anyone.